of the audience. Hey everyone, this is Andrew Hall. This is the Late Show, and with me is Jack Materko. How you doing this evening, Jack?
I'm doing okay, Andy. I'm doing okay. Not great, but okay.
Okay, well, okay is sufficient, I think. So,
I can make do with okay for now.
And I'm super excited that Joe Badon is here on the channel to talk about his newest projects, and yes, that's plural. Projects.
Yes.
How you doing, Joe?
Yes, it took me a week to walk here, but I'm here. So, God. Anyway, I've done this a couple times where I look at Eastern Standard Time or whatever the other time zones are, and I flip them in my head, like time zone dyslexic.
Right.
Anyway,
before we start off, I have to thank you. I just finished watching. Literally 20 minutes ago, I just finished watching Hour of the Wolf.
Oh, nice.
Nice. And it's an incredible movie, and it's Ingmar Bergman, 1968, I think, might be 1969. I think it's 68.
Yeah.
And it's a horror movie.
Yeah, Bergman horror. It's fucking frightening.
The last 20 minutes of it. I mean, it's frightening all the way through. I mean,
right.
it builds up.
Yeah.
It builds up, but the last 20 minutes or so, I'm like, wow, this is legit. There is some real scariness there.
When the guy walks on the ceiling, I rewound it and watched it. I was just so fucking freaked out. It was so perfect.
It was perfect in the sense that you didn't expect it.
Right. Yeah,
dude's just walking in this room, and then he goes up the wall, and he just goes upside down.
It's so David Lynchian. It's so fucking scary.
Has anyone cut that scene to Lionel Richie's dancing on the ceiling?
It's gotta happen. It's gotta happen.
Somebody make that happen.
Yeah,
I haven't even seen that scene, and I already know it's brilliant.
Yes.
So I just want to say hello to everyone in the chat. If you have a question for Joe, please ask. You can ask him anything about film. I've heard Joe on other shows. Joe knows a lot about movies, about the art of movie filmmaking and writing. And so if you have any questions, feel free just to throw it in the chat, everyone.
I do want to say this. I feel like I'm a movie fan more than a filmmaker. Well,
dude, I mean, you have two you have two feature films under your belt.
I know, but there's so much help from my crew. Like if I shot my own films, they would look like total garbage. If I edited my own films, they wouldn't be half as like tight and consistent as my editor gives them. So like I have to give so much of that, the craft of what's being made, to like my crew, the guys that are really, they're just so talented.
For example, the Blood of the Dinosaurs short that we've had the opportunity to see.
I'd love to hear your thoughts too, but anyway.
Like my thought there is like, you've written the treatment of it, and it says, the end of the dinosaurs or whatever.
Right.
And somebody else who was just like, okay, we're going to take these figurines, we're going to take some bottle rockets up here, we're going to fly. The actual logistics of how to get the shot is you're leaving up to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Like I did the whole dinosaur with the miniatures.
It felt like it was really fun to do.
Oh, it was so fun. It was so fun to do, and we did it, and it was like miniatures that aren't moving; they're just toys, and we were I just did not like just that, and finally I decided. Well, I was watching, I think, The Mandalorian, and you know how with The Mandalorian all the backgrounds are like just basically giant LED screens. I don't know if you watched behind the scenes on that stuff, but it's really crazy. And so I'm like, well, if I buy dinosaur puppets and then we just put them in front of my flat screen, we can do all sorts of backgrounds.
That explains why they're so pixely around the edge.
Yeah.
It's such a great effect. It's such a great effect.
I love it.
So it's like just being stupid and fun and like, but yeah, I guess I'm saying like I don't have any formal training. I just really love making films. I love film, and I just surround myself with talented people, and then I try to make up the rest with just creative problem solving.
Let me back up for a minute because there might be people who who didn't see your last interview here in October, or when you came on for your first movie, Sister Tempest. And I have your bio right here that you have on your Kickstarter, and I should read that. But
Sure.
This is the problem too, by the way. There's when we get really friendly with our guests and we know them. There's
Right.
like this naive realism in our heads that everyone knows Joe, right? Because
Right.
everyone's been following us for the last like 5 or 7 years, Jack. That this has been but let me read your bio at least.
Yeah.
Joe Badon is a filmmaker, illustrator, and musician from New Orleans, Louisiana. He's written and directed 2 feature films, Sister Tempest in 2020 and God Inside My Ear in 2018. He's illustrated storyboards for a number of films, including Keanu 2016 and Desiree. Did I pronounce that right, Joe? Desiree, thank you. I knew I didn't.
Oh, fine.
I just knew I didn't. Joe has also written and illustrated a number of comic books, including Terra Kaiju, which sounds awesome, and The Man with 10,000 Eyes, which sounds doubly awesome, if that is even possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude. So I thought I would get that out of the way with. And a question from the chat. Kendra wants to know how long you've been making movies for.
I've been making films since 2017 when I did my first feature, The God Inside My Ear. And that one you can see, I think it's free on Tubi TV. So like if anybody just wants to watch something that I've done, that one's free. So anyway.
Cool.
But I just kind of jumped in. I was a comic book artist I've been doing illustration work for about 12 years. And I started doing storyboards for local little films and indie films and kind of worked my way up and then did some storyboards for actual Hollywood films and like Keanu. That's a Key and P film for a long time ago. Anyway, and then so I was able to sit down and work with a bunch of like seasoned directors or a bunch of different directors. And so I got to see how movies were made. I got to see how the sausage was made. So that was kind of my only real training, was doing that. And so in 2017, or I guess 2016, I wrote a script and got on Facebook and just asked, do I have any cinematographer friends? And 2 people responded, and I interviewed both of them and just decided on Daniel. And Daniel brought along his crew. And so we just ended up gelling. It was really all feels like just acts of God that happened. It was very, very much felt like destiny, kind of lining up things with the first film. And then I've worked with brought the same troupe to make Sister Tempest, the next film. And just kind of working with the same troupe for every film,
Which must make things a lot easier in terms of production. I mean, you're all on the same page. You know each other's habits.
Yes.
Everyone knows what's expected out of everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. And more, the more I work with everyone, cast and crew, the more products I make, the more they're able to see what I'm trying to do and kind of go with it even more. Like God Inside My Ear was so hard for me to communicate the style that I wanted and the style of acting, style of editing. So it was always like I was asking for these weird things, like some, like style of a French New Wave film, and no one's watching French New Wave that are making films. Like you would think that you could sit down with people that are filmmakers, and cast and crew that want to be part of film, and you can talk about film history with them. And most of the time you can't. Most of the time they're just like everyone else, just like normal people. They just happen to love filmmaking.
Yes.
You know, they happen to love the process or whatever.
Sure.
So the more films I make, the more they're like, oh, this guy's making weird shit. And so they get more on board with me just kind of randomly saying, you know, I'd like you to quack like a chicken in this scene. And then you know, like the first film was like, no, you know, but now it's like, oh yeah, okay, you're doing something strange. Let's go with it, you know.
Very cool. Very cool. Kendra says that's awesome. She'll check out your work.
Cool. Thank you.
Very cool. And I would be remiss if I didn't say Joe Badon's newest Kickstarter is in the description to this video. It's also the first comment. Also,
cool.
or the first, yeah. So check it out. Joe, I can share the screen and show the Blood of the Dinosaurs, the trailer. Yes. How does that sound?
Let's do it.
All right, let's see if this works, everyone. It's always
tons of mice. I'm pretty sure you're just making fun of my headset, right?
Wait,
I had to use a headset. My Bluetooth ran out of power this morning.
Tons of mice says, would Joe consider a remake of Metropolis with Jack Materco in the machine bench role?
Hell yeah. Is one of my favorite films. So I would love to do that.
Classic.
Yes.
I love doing the side-by-sides between Metropolis and Blade Runner.
Oh, yeah.
Just...
All right. Let's see if this is going to work, everyone. I mean, it's always hit or miss. So this is the trailer for The Blood of the Dinosaurs, if I'm not incorrect, or if I'm correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Let's see what happens.
Kids, it's your old pal, Uncle Bobo. Where have you been hiding? You've been looking all around. I sure am glad to see you. Oil comes from dinosaurs. Yes, boy bubbly. What is it? The blood of the dinosaurs. They travel to the wheel of heaven. And that's where babies come from.
Dude, how brilliant is that?
Oh, my editor really put together a beautiful trailer. I gave him like the basic idea, and I was like, oh, I want to do the 1812 overture at the end, and he just fucking knocked it out.
It was incredible, and I believe I had that book as a kid, the dinosaur book.
Yeah.
With the,
yes.
It's the Apatosaurus on the cover and everything. It's like, oh, that's so fantastic. I loved that book when I was a kid.
Yeah. What's great is like, I guess back in the early 1900s, there was shitloads of those paintings made for different books and stuff. And then they all fell into the public domain. So I was able to just find such a beautiful painting to use and just kind of recreate, since being an illustrator and graphic designer, able to recreate that kind of look with the, you know, font and stuff, you know.
Sure.
But so it, having seen the movie and even just from the trailer, it raises two questions, right? One, what was your relationship with Mr. Rogers as a kid?
Right. And you want to do one at a time?
We'll do one at a time. Yeah.
Okay, cool. You know, I wasn't a huge fan. Like I watched him every so often. I'm actually a bigger fan now. You know, like getting older, you're like, he's such a
he's just a nice guy, but like
a beautiful man. Yeah. So no, I am like kind of obsessed with that children's show kind of motif, though.
Mhm.
You know, any kind of like game shows, children's shows, like any kind of those old retro television programs. I just love that. I mean, you know, we all grew up with that shit, you know?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
just part of what we grew up with, and
Yeah,
it has that
yeah.
common thing going on. And the comparison between childbirth and exorcism, I thought was really good.
Nice. Yes. Thank you. Well, so if you, you know, this is the little prologue to the next film, The Wheel of Heaven. The whole film is kind of about death and rebirth and reincarnation, and just kind of like the cycle of the circle of life and all that kind of shit, and how it just kind of recycles. Everything recycles spiritually, emotionally, physically. And so that whole exorcism thing is totally, I mean, I had 2 children. It's totally like the last push before the next like cycle, essentially, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I one of the real reasons why we did it was because I wanted the mother to give birth to herself. And so it's like I didn't want to use CGI to where it looked like she was giving birth to herself, even though we could have just done it with different cuts of the camera. But I knew we didn't have a lot of time as well at that little hospital. So it was kind of like, well, what I could do is when we turn the camera back onto the mom, it's gone from the regular mom to the possessed mom. So we were able to use a different actress. So it was kind of necessity. It was mother of invention kind of thing right there.
I see what you did there, sir. Well done.
Yeah. So there you go.
That's clever.
Yeah.
You know, so I started watching the trailer for Blood of the Dinosaurs, and it made me think of 2 things. One, of Hereditary, Ari Aster movie,
Right.
and also, and that made me think of Hour of the Wolf with that weird puppet stuffed man in the little diorama.
Yeah.
And now I'm so intrigued by this scene. I'm gonna look from the camera to Joe on the screen. It's like, wow, that was like, yeah, it gave me weird feelings. That's what it did. It gave me weird feelings.
That puppet scene in Hour of the Wolf, holy shit. That's one of my favorite moments. So good. And there's barely anything that happens. I know, like, we're talking about this movie. I know most people have not seen Hour of the Wolf, so they're probably like, I don't know what he's talking about. But yeah, if you could even just YouTube, you know, puppet scene Hour of the Wolf, it's in there.
Yeah. It's but yeah, I really enjoyed. So Jeff Pearson, who played the Uncle Bobby.
Oh, so that's Vincent Stalbo did Uncle Bobo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what a creep. And I mean that very positively.
Yeah. Amazing guy. This guy got inside my ear on like Amazon Prime, and then just wrote to me, and he said, you know, I'm an actor in LA and I really dig your work. I'd like to work with you in the future. And we had already shot Sister Tempest. So I was like, I'll keep you in mind in the next thing. And we just kept in touch on Facebook and socially. And sometimes we'll watch movies, like Zoom movie stuff. And we just connected. Like, we have like a kindred spirit creatively. And even like spiritually, like I can really connect with that dude. It's just one of those guys that I just connected with. So I had him audition, and God, he just blew it out of the water. It was just, he interpreted the character in a way that I didn't even see the character. And when I saw what he did, I was like, yeah, this is him. This is the guy. And it was funny when he flew down and we're, you know, shot everything when we're editing. Every take was like almost exactly the same. Like, he did not change the whole thing. He doesn't blink. He doesn't blink in the entire fucking short film. It's just insane. But yeah, so he slept on my couch for like 2 days, and we just bonded. And the guy is like literally one of the sweetest guys I've ever met. Just genuine sweet guy. And That's how good of an actor he is, because he totally plays a pedophile. Yeah. So, so it's scary.
I forgot what I was going to say. So I imagine you didn't have to direct him a whole lot. He just
the only thing I did, the only direction I really gave him was once we started, kind of rehearsing a little bit. I noticed that he was just going a little too fast. So I told him, just pretend like you have a tumor and you really have to respond slowly. That's the only direction I gave him. It's like he has a tumor and his brain is hitting something where he's got everything slow.
Yeah.
Slow and deliberate.
Well, it's much more powerful that way.
Yeah, it's creepy as hell. It also like doubles the runtime of what the script was.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So pages, and I think it's 20-minute a short film. So.
I think it shows, because obviously you don't make movies with huge budgets, right?
No, that was the short film for Blood of the Dinosaurs. $2,500 is what we spent.
Okay, so it's $2,500. But the thing is, you have people who believe in what you're doing.
Yeah,
it is such an idiosyncratic kind of vision.
Yeah,
that people who do glom onto it are like, wow, I'm going to go watch Hour of the Wolf. I'm sorry, I keep talking about that. Or now I want to watch all these other movies that you reference in your Kickstarter that are referenced. And they just believe in what you're doing. So this guy just flies in from LA.
Yep.
Sleeps on your couch. And that I think that's, if nothing else, speaks to the power of the vision right there, of artistic vision.
It's really strange. I feel like completely humbled that there's so many people that really believe in what I'm doing. It's a very strange feeling. It's like the first time in my life that I've had no, that's not true. When I was a pastor, because we had talked about this before, I was a pastor for a long time, and I did have a lot of people around me that really believed in what I was doing. And beautiful.
It wasn't your thing. It was the church's thing.
Right. You're right. Exactly. And I supported pastors above me that I poured my heart and soul into, to a fault. And it's just humbling that all I'm doing is making weird movies and people love them that much that they want to, sacrifice their time and energy, not forever. We all want to move up together, but they believe that we'll be able to move up together with these projects. And that's just very humbling,
Sure. So for people who aren't aware of your pastor past, do you feel comfortable talking about it for a couple of minutes?
For sure. Yeah. I was a youth pastor and then associate pastor at a non-denominational, Holy Ghost rolling, very, very conservative church for 12 years, and I attended the church for 16 total. So I was in it. I was deep in it. And, my wife actually pretty much got me out of it. She woke up before I did, and we both had to kind of deprogram ourselves out of that, that cult, basically a cult, So, and I live in regret for so much of the shit that I've done to other people, as far as leading people in ways that maybe I shouldn't have, and not in illegal ways or anything, just, in the bondage of religion,
Supporting things that now that you've thought about it a little more, maybe you feel bad about supporting, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is not an original idea for me. I've heard this from other people, is that, good people feel guilty when they realize they do bad things.
Yeah.
And if you didn't feel guilty about it somehow, then that may make you not a good person.
That might make you a sociopath.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I still.
Well, the important thing is that you thought you were doing the right thing at the time, and then when you got more information, you changed what you were doing.
Yes, exactly. And there's a lot of people that just get too set in their ways or refuse to like admit they're wrong or whatever, and that's just bullshit. I'll be the first one to say I'm wrong if I feel like I am, you know. So yeah, so now I got out of church and started doing artwork full time, and which was, the art is not something you just launch into as a great career. So it was like very for a long time. But now, doing pretty well with my artwork. I've been doing that for about 12 years. And now I'm just trying to launch off into just, film was something I'd wanted to do since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I felt like I finally have the opportunity. So, and I'm fucking 44. I'm getting old, So,
yeah.
And don't you feel glad that you've moved away from that entire cult scenario and you're not making films for like pure flicks? Because those movies suck.
Oh, God.
Suck.
Yes, absolutely. And that could have absolutely happened. And it would have been horrible. Yeah.
So,
miserable.
Tobin asks from the chat, what technical tricks maybe would Joe like to eventually use for future movies? So Joe, you do like inexpensive movies and you make a lot of props on your own, don't you? You make a lot of special effects on your own. Is there anything that you have like a dream list of stuff you want to use in the future? Like if you had a big budget?
I'm going to go with the typo there being techniques instead of techniques.
I'm thinking techniques. If there was some other word, Tobin, that you meant, let us know. But we're thinking techniques. What other techniques? Well, right now I'm writing a kung fu film, and so one thing that I haven't been able to really do is action, and not in your typical action movie way. One reason I want to do action is because I don't really like action films. And so I'm always trying to tackle film genres that I don't like, as well as film genres that I do. Like I don't like musicals, but so I always try to put musical numbers in my films because I feel like I can contribute something that maybe no one else is doing in the genre. So I love kung fu films from like the 70s. I love Shaw Brothers kung fu and shit. But most kung fu shit nowadays is garbage. Most action movies are garbage. So I was like, well, I'm going to do an action film. So like that's one thing I would love to do is start doing more action, like wires and fucking cars exploding, and it's just stuff that I can't afford to do. Yeah. And musicals. So I'd like to do giant musical numbers, and it's just something that we can't afford to do right now. So we're not doing them. So, so yeah, those would be some things that I want to tackle.
So the getting back to the projects that you have now, The Blood of the Dinosaurs is the prequel to The Wheel of Heaven. You want to talk about that? Yeah.
So, basically the Wheel of Heaven, I wrote the script with 4 chapters, and Blood of the Dinosaurs was the first chapter. And we decided to break that off and make it as its own thing because we could afford to, and then do Kickstarter for the rest. This is essentially how we did it. So Blood of the Dinosaurs is chapter 1 or prologue. And then Wheel of Heaven is the main story. And that Wheel of Heaven is basically about this young girl named Purity who breaks down on the side of the road in the middle of the night, kind of like Rocky Horror Picture Show sort of deal. And she like gets caught up in this close house party that's next door. And there's a weird, party host, and she kind of gets caught up in the whole party that's happening. But the party's more of an existential crisis and also like a spiritual ritual that's happening. And she kind of gets caught up in the middle of it, of that whole thing. And while all this is happening, there's someone actually reading the story from a choose your own adventure style book. And it's the same actress, but as a different character, reading the story and making decisions about her life that's happening in the story. So there's a few different layers. And then there's another layer above that where that same actress is captain of a Star Trek kind of vessel. And so that's a whole other layer. So there's like all these multi-layers of narrative threads that are all happening at the same time. They all kind of converge at the end. I'm actually spoiling things a little, but there you go.
Well, I really loved Choose Your Own Adventure books when I was a kid.
Yes. It was most of the books I've ever read. I've read more Choose Your Own Adventure books than any other books in my life.
Only books that are in second-person perspective, which I really appreciate.
Yes, absolutely. And also, I was talking with one of my actors about this and kind of realized I love the cyclical nature. Like that's what I love, the cyclical nature of nature. And I love the all my stories kind of have cyclical things in them, like themes in them. And I'm realizing like the reason why is because most of the books I've ever read have been Choose Your Own Adventure books. And that's all about like starting over and starting over and starting over. And so kind of that's what this story is about. But that's what all my stories are kind of about. So there you go. I'm not very original. I'm basically writing the same thing.
So what did you think of Black Mirror Bandersnatch?
I never finished it. I watched like 15 minutes or 20 minutes of the story, and it was fine, but it didn't feel. It felt like the whole selling point of that was that it was a choose your own adventure. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like they could have been doing some fucking cool shit with that, like him going into like a dragon land or some shit, or just like crazy stuff, or more like dreamlike things. But it was more like.
It was considerably more dystopian than that. Yes, I agree.
Yes.
It was very hard to not die. Like, I mean, they really.
It just felt like the whole gimmick was the choose your own adventure instead of like being more interesting with the choices. So
right. Well, I kind of feel that way about choose your own adventure books a little bit. Like reading now as a grown up, it's very much like that seems like too obvious choices. Right?
Well, I've gotten into like Dungeons and Dragons did a set called like Endless Quest, and then there are these Steve Jackson games did these ones called Fighting Fantasy books, and those you actually created a character, and then you actually rolled dice to like do goals and fight monsters, and so there's more of an RPG component, and they were better written. So if you're gonna read like those kind of books. Those are the ones that I love. So anyway, I'm a like total snob on these books.
Fantasy books that require homework. What every geek loves.
Great. I love it. Yes. So
how many more days do you have left on the Kickstarter campaign?
11, and we are way behind, but it's fine. We'll get it. We'll get it. I believe in it, and there's some other people that'll probably try to push it through at the end, but I think we're like 8,500 right now. We got like 11 days to get to.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I wanted to be to at least like 11 or 12 by now, but it's fine. That's why I'm doing these interviews. Like,
one thing I've heard, it's just kind of that it's every Kickstarter kind of, they have a good first week, they have a great last week, and the middle weeks are always very,
the middle weeks are pushing a boulder up a hill. This is like my 7th or 8th Kickstarter at this point, because I did a lot of Kickstarters with comic books before I did movies. So this is the worst part right now.
So, well, I'm glad that you're here saying that this is the worst part. I feel happy to be with you for this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. This is like the time where I'm just crying all the time.
This is the brand. Joe does cool shit.
You don't have no fingernails anymore. It's just a matter of...
It's so bad. Oh, my God.
So, I have to ask you, Joe, was there a fuck it moment where you decided that you're just going to do your thing and not worry about commercial success of the film? Because a lot of people, right, when they're doing these projects, they're hoping to get the big fish.
Right.
Yes. I look at your stuff, and it just feels like you have the vision, and you're going to push it.
Yeah.
and you're going to explore it and, build it, they will come kind of attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the turning point was really after we did God Inside My Ear. When I wrote God Inside My Ear, I was like, I was scared to be too strange. And so I kind of relied on cherry picking from influences that felt safe, like Twin Peaks and Twilight Zone. I was taking like the most popular of the fringe kind of movies and TV shows and kind of using those as reference. And so I created something that was good, but it would be kind of what would be called quirky, which is fine, but quirky doesn't really change like the landscape of cinema. Quirky just kind of goes, oh, this is a fun movie that you'll forget about. And so what really changed for me was after we put it out, and I was like, this movie's great. Everybody's going to love it. And like people hated that film. And, people love that film. I have plenty of people that really dug the film, and I appreciate that. But kind of seeing how much people hated the film, and then kind of looking around at other indie films that I love and noticing that indie films just get no love. People like, I don't know what it is, but if you have a low budget, people just don't understand that. They're like, why doesn't this look like Hollywood? Like, well, yeah, because I'm using $5,000 to make a fucking feature film, piece of shit.
It does look like Hollywood. It looks like Hollywood 30, 40 years ago, but it looks exactly like Hollywood 30, 40 years ago. And
yes. So,
shut up.
So after God Inside My Ear, I was just like, you know what? Next film, I'm just going to do whatever I want. And so, yeah, it didn't take long. Just one film. I said, fuck y'all. I'm doing what I want to do. And then after doing Sister Tempest, I was like writing Blood of the Dinosaurs. I was like, let me see how far I can go before people don't want to work with me anymore. And so that's kind of what Blood of the Dinosaurs is. Like, let's see how weird I can be, and everybody still not run. So,
yeah, I once again, I remember talking about Sister Tempest with you, that there was like this internal logic,
right,
to that story, to that script, and I feel the same way about Blood of the Dinosaurs too. It's quirky, but it's definitely a prequel from what I understand of the next movie coming out.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It's more of like an essay on my philosophy for the next film.
Yeah.
Is really what it is, more than anything. And it does introduce the character of purity in kind of a weird way. But more than anything, it's kind of an essay on the cyclical nature of everything.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to do or to film Blood of the Dinosaurs?
So it's 20 minutes. We shot it in, technically 4 days.
Oh, 4.
But 2 of those days were just like me and my cameraman. Like, we went to a train museum and shot all the miniatures. That was one day, right? That was like just like 3 hours.
Like B-roll, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, basically 2 of those days were B-roll days, and the other 2 days were actually acting and on sets and stuff.
And having actors involved at all, which changes the dynamic and makes it take longer.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then it's 20 minutes, but then y'all saw the rough cut. There's probably a good 4 minutes of like just stock footage that's in the film. It's a lot of stock footage. Yeah, we had fun with that.
Yeah. It must have been fun putting it all together once you had all the pieces. And, it felt like you were playing around with the audio too, with the music, more than you had in other projects.
Actually, I think I did more with Sister Tempest, but it was just so long that, that was like a little more sparse. And since it's only 20 minutes, there was definitely some audio playing. I'm trying to do that more and more because, being a musician and also like being a noise musician and that kind of like, I love just found sound and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really interested in that. So yeah, I'm going to mess with that, especially because that's something I can do. So I'm like, all right, you edit, I'm going to mess with the sound, So
Theo asks from the chat, how much freedom have actors for Joe's project versus how exactly to follow the author's script? Now, that's a good question because every director has a different attitude, right?
yeah.
About how sacred is the script.
Oh, the script is not sacred at all. Unless there's like a specific line that I need said. Everything else is up for interpretation. And I just I am like the worst director in the world. Honestly, I don't know how to direct an actor. Like, I just hope that they say their lines correctly. That's really what I do. And then every once in a while, there'll just be an actor that we'll have to sit down and work with. Yeah. And then I'm just kind of figuring it out on the fly, you know, and sometimes getting it completely wrong. But I think the only thing that I try to do is during auditions, I try to make sure I find the people that completely nail it. Like, I can feel that they get the role. And then after that, if I feel like they've got it and they understand it, then I just let them interpret it. Oh. It also comes from me being a freelance illustrator for like a decade. And I noticed after doing that for so long that my best work was when the client would just let me do it. They would give me references, and they would like give me a general thing, but then they would let me do it.
Right. There's nothing worse than a micromanaging client.
Yeah.
So
that's what I try to
turn you into an autonomous pencil to draw their vision, and gross. Yeah.
Yes, completely. Like when I did auditions for Mr. Universe, who's going to be in the Wheel of Heaven. He's like our main guy. And all the actors, I sent them like who I wanted. Like as far as who I wanted them to reference. Like Mr. Universe, I wanted them to basically be Mr. Z from Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. And one of the actors actually studied that actor, the scenes with that actor, and delivered a performance that was just like, oh, you did it. You like leaned into it. You got into his mind, and you figured out that character. And so that's all I needed. Now I can just trust him. All I have to do is yell action and cut, and he'll be able to do the rest, you know? So that's the thing. Like, I'm the more and more I read about the way other directors direct actors, a lot of the directors are very hands off, even big ones. You know, they're very much like, I think I heard Spielberg say that he doesn't actually direct the actors until after the third take. Like, he lets them try to work it out themselves. And then if he feels like it's still off, then he might interject some ideas. And so I think that's very important to just let everyone, no matter who they are, you give them, like if they're a makeup artist or they're doing concept art or whatever, you give them references, and then you let them interpret the way that you give them that freedom to be an artist, you know?
I think the actor that you got to play Purity, young Purity.
Right. Stella.
Magic.
Yeah. She's so great. Well, she's been in every one of my films. She was the floating head in Sister Tempest, and she was the little girl that's like the prophetess in God Inside My Ear. So she was like actually after I left the church that I was a pastor at, we went to another church, and her mom went to that same church. And so we like connected up with her mom that way. And it was another thing where I just posted on Facebook that I need a little girl for this film. And she just nailed it. She nailed it when she was like 6 years old in God Inside My Ear. And she's just growing as such a great actress. It's amazing.
Right. So I was watching, I remember reading something about Bergman.
Yeah.
Right. And he wrote something that that film has nothing to do with literature. And,
okay.
and regarding your style of filmmaking, does it have anything to do with literature?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, totally. I feel like prose and poetry are totally elements of film. It's like film has all the different elements. It has prose, it has poetry, it has music, it has theater, it has basically any kind of visual arts you can use in film. And so prose is just one component of film that you can exploit, and I think what maybe Bergman, what I interpret what he might be saying, is like it is that film is a visual medium, and so we shouldn't rely on like the prose. We shouldn't rely on text or narration, But I love narration in films. I love over narration and over explanation because I just think it's funny and kitschy because it's like the wrong way to do things.
I feel like that narration part just is like, the old noir detective movies.
Yes.
Like that kind of voiceover is definitely a very specific thing and it works for the genre. Like, so if that's what you're going for, then great. But other times it's very, show it, don't tell it, blah, blah, blah. But
100%, totally. Like with noir films, they're just visual novels is what they're doing. So it is like a visual prose with noir films. So yeah, sometimes movies are kind of like where prose takes a bigger seat or a front seat. But I always love when a film totally breaks a rule that is set up for film. I love that. So I'm like obsessed with like, narration's the wrong way. Well, let's do it because that's not the way you're supposed to do it. I just love that. I love that. I've always been like a fan of like that punk rock mentality where like we don't know how to play our instruments, but we're going to play anyway.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So that's why I kind of love narration in that way because it's just the wrong thing to do,
So you break certain rules and you, in a way, create your own rules within, what you got to work in, how you work. Do you have a temptation of breaking those rules too?
Oh yeah, always want to just break all the rules. You know what I mean? Like do things that are counterintuitive to what I would want to do, like doing action films or doing, musical numbers. Those are like things that I don't want to do. So I want to do that almost to fuck myself, to be like, fuck you for like not wanting something. And I think that comes from when I was a musician in high school. I really got into like experimental composers. And one was
like Philip Glass,
like
the
Philip
one note,
the
one note song.
Yes. Or like John Cage, like the 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence. Like that's like a total middle finger to everybody and everything in every direction. And I love like Dadaism, just that absurdist nonsense. And so, I just want to break every rule. And so I was going to say one of my favorite composers is John Zorn. And he's like a jazz composer. And what he does is he does like genre hopping where he'll do one song. It'll be like 30 different genres and styles of music just hopping around all in one song. And what that did for my formative brain when I was in high school was that it said that all styles of music were acceptable. And it was something when you're in high school, it's like mind blowing. Of course, when you get older, you're like, of course, that's stupid. Yeah. But when you're younger, it's like everything's acceptable. So then I was forced to like listen to pop music and listen to like hip hop when I was younger. I didn't like it, because I was a suburban white kid, and so like, listen to things that I didn't like and find and discover things that I liked out of those things. So I'm always trying to like even force myself to do something that I don't want to do because I'll discover that I might like it,
Yeah. We should talk about some of the perks if people do decide to contribute to your Kickstarter. What can they expect?
Yes. So thank you. So the $10 level, you can get the Wheel of Heaven. Like you'll get a digital download of the Wheel of Heaven. But then if you do $20, you can do. We will give you both new films, The Blood of the Dinosaurs and The Wheel of Heaven, which watching them separately is fine. They won't you don't have to watch both to get both. But if you watch them together, it's like even better. It's a nice, bigger story. And so then up from there, there's like perks like movie posters and tickets if you want to like actually fly down yourself to the like world premiere of the films in New Orleans. And so we'll do like a nice like party event, you know. And so like we'll have movie tickets, and then we go up from there to like if you want to be a producer, if you ever actually wanted to get like a nice producer credit on IMDb.
And not just a shitty associate producer credit, but like a real
an actual producer credit, which is even better.
Yeah.
So like I think $700 is a producer credit, and then like I think it's $1,300 for an executive producer credit, which is not bad, you know.
That's not too shabby.
Yeah, I mean tax returns are coming in, so you know if you got nothing else to spend it on.
Yeah. Nice. So when do you expect to be getting everything going for the Wheel of Heaven? I mean, in terms of shooting, edit, whatever, you know, getting things moving on that.
Yeah, I'm doing pre-production right now. So
yeah.
I mean, basically, once I know that the money secured, I'm gonna start like getting props together, getting everything together. We're basically right now doing storyboards. Getting all of our lists together, figuring out what we need, and getting all the locations. All the locations are secured, vehicles are secured, all the actors are secured. It's basically like once we know we have the money, we will start basically just getting wardrobe and props, which will take about a month. So we're planning on starting shooting in August. About mid-August, and so it'll just be August and September, and we'll have everything shot.
Nice.
I move pretty fast. I don't like to sit on my hands. I don't like to micromanage. I like to get the shit done, you know. So then it'll probably take another like 3 or 4 months to edit and do post-production. So it should probably be, you know, the end of the year, somewhere around there.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about how you've been managing with COVID. I know we're heading towards the end, kind of, sort of the pandemic. I know you're in Louisiana. I don't know what the pandemic's like down there, what the vaccination rates are like down there. But how, in terms of filming and your personal life, how are things going?
Oh, God. You know, I think everybody's had it rough. Personally, it's been rough. My brain is fried from just like emotionally, you know. It was weird. Like I thought, hey, 8 months of vacation will be good, and then like,
oh, naive. Yeah, I had the same thought.
Like my brain muscles atrophied or something. It's very strange, but finally coming out of it all, you know, the vaccination rates are really good. Pretty much all restrictions have pretty much been lifted, you know, in the area. That was also another thing. I basically, my day job is I sell my artwork in New Orleans to tourists. Basically, I sit on the street and sell artwork to drunk people is what I do. And it's a really great job, actually. The problem is that during pandemic,
there were no tourists.
No tourists. All of my money comes from tourism, like completely. So financially, it had been a real struggle. But things are back up on our feet. So
that's great. Well, you know, I do think that would be a really good business because I imagine a lot of drunk people have a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
And
yeah, for a few bucks. New
Orleans is like, you know, a very big tourist destination. So yeah, it's great. It's great. I can't believe I kind of fell backwards into it, but it's like I've been able to like, raise my kids off of it. So yeah.
Fantastic, dude. So we're getting down to that time where the last question we like to ask our guests is there something you wanted us to ask you, but we didn't get around to? Not about where people can find you online or plugs or anything like that, but in terms of substance, in terms of a topic, is there something you wanted to talk about that we didn't get around to?
Oh shoot. God, I have no idea. Maybe the only thing I'd want to talk about is it's crazy difficult to kind of break into this. This is why I'm making these short films right now, is because doing these 2 feature films, this is for any filmmakers that might be listening or aspiring filmmakers. You just think, hey, I'm going to make a great product, and this is all I need is a great product. And I'm just so naive. I am so naive. I just like really still think like a child so much. And I mean, 44, and I still feel like I'm a child learning these things. But it's much more about who you know and what,
Yeah.
and nepotism and that sort of stuff. And so I guess I've already kind of talked about it, but with film, it's like the best thing you can be is just yourself, and not try to sell yourself as a package. Like, okay, I know what's in the zeitgeist of Hollywood, and this is what Netflix is making, and this is what these guys are doing. So like, this is what Blumhouse is doing or whatever. So I'm going to make movies like them. But the problem is by the time people notice you, they'll have moved on. And all those techniques that you've been imitating are now old hat that no one cares about. And so I feel like I've learned, although I'm not I'm still making micro budget films, but I feel like I've learned that at least for my own like honor as an artist, to just be true to myself. What do I want to make? I'm going to go make that and just not care about anything else.
Well, you got some really good critical reviews for your last movie, Sister Tempest.
Yeah, I did with God Inside My Ear too. It's just like the general population, is not as gracious as like, film fans and cinema fans and things like that. So yeah, Sister Tempest we won a ton of film festival awards and had like people really love the film, and I'm very proud of it. But I know once it actually hits the street, like it's coming out in September, once it actually hits the street, people are gonna hate it, and so like that's fine. But I know they will. But at this point,
as long as they buy a ticket, don't care if they hate it.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's what. As long as you have a good trailer and a good poster, the movie can suck.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
There you go.
There's some truth in that. There's really some truth in that. Joe, this has been a lot of fun, and I just want to talk about John. It's like, John, I'm sorry that happened to you. John was saying he has PTSD from the lockdown and has some issues about going into. So I have found that my own tolerance for being out in public, due to the lockdown, kind of was lowered. My socialization muscles atrophied.
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty okay with it, but I miss the masks already. I really enjoyed not having to like make facial expressions at people. Like,
I was getting
relaxing.
I was getting like acne real bad from the mask. So
really? Wow.
I'm very happy that it was just like all over my chin.
That's hard.
Yeah, it was weird. But yeah, man, I totally understand. I think it fucked us all up, at least to some degree.
Yeah.
It fucked us all up together.
Yes.
Yay!
Strange phenomena in the world. Oh, it's weird.
So, Joe, where can people find you online, sir?
Yes. Well, okay. So for the Kickstarter, if they just type in wheelofheaven.com, it'll direct them straight to the Kickstarter. Or they can go to Kickstarter and then search for Wheel of Heaven. You can also find me as a filmmaker at joebadon.com, JoeBadon. Or you can go on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter and just look up my name, Joe Badon, and you can follow me, friend me. Also, the same with Sister Tempest and God and Samy. You can look on social media and find social pages for those things too. So, and then lastly, yeah, if you just Google my name, you can find my films, and God and Samy is available. Everything else is not yet, but coming up very soon. So,
Well, dude, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
thank you. I just seriously feel like a jackass for last week, and really, I appreciate your graciousness. For real.
Yeah. Well, I believe in the product. That's what I do. I believe in the vision and in the product, and I think you do good work.
Thank you very much. I'm honored.
Satanist Jack, you got anything coming up?
Unveiling day is going to be the 23rd and 24th at the Satanic Estate. So go buy your tickets for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bunch of cool stuff's going to be going on.
What's the unveiling?
This is the annual celebration of the unveiling of the Baphomet statue in whatever year that happened. Remember that? That happened on July 25th. So now it's an annual holiday in the church.
All right.
When was that? That was like 5 or 10 years ago. How long ago was that? Am I wrong?
I want to say 2016. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. I was making sure. I get, like, the older I get, the more I'm like, what are the time dates for things so I can remember my life?
Yeah.
It's terrible.
That's why they put timestamps on the photos, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's true.
So everyone in the chat, thanks for showing up. For everyone who's watching this on Facebook and on YouTube, thanks for showing up. This is always fun. And once again, Joe, thanks. Jack, thanks. Andy, I'm going to say thanks to myself. I don't know why I'm doing that, but I just did, just because I'm awkward. And take care, everyone. And I'm going to hit the magic button.